His enjoyment continues. Our own is enjoyment now, and forever. So they are all the same thing. Then also we have, the Deputy President PENGASSAN, General Secretary PENGASSAN, National Treasurer, National Industrial Relations Officers. I say welcome to every one of us. To our guests, the EVP Gas and Power. You know, he's a very busy man, but he's here today to identify with us. We appreciate you, sir. We appreciate your time. And we appreciate your love for the association, PENGASSAN. You are welcome, sir. Thank you so much. Great Nigeria. Forever. His name is Olalekan Ogunleye. Let me call it well, not W-E, but Y-E. Then also we have the representative of, because this our conference fell in a period where all the captains of industry, most of them are abroad. The CC, I think, is in Egypt. The GCO is away. So the GCO is away. The ES of NCDMB, we spoke this morning, is also out of the country, but they are represented by Superweight. Then also we have the representative of the NCDMB ES. We also have the representative of the authority chief executives. We quite appreciate you. You are welcome, sirs. Then also we have the representative of PTDF. PTDF has been one of our very strong partners in PENGASSAN. They have offered a lot of trainings to our members. They have supported us, and you know, because they are training petroleum training development fund. So, but we have partnered with them. We have collaborated with them. It started with the former ES. And even to this current ES now, they have given us a lot of support. In fact, this year alone, they sponsored all our women to Lagos Business School. Forever. No controversy. You see, hope you are not lobbying him again for additional training next year. Seeing you seated with him, it shows that, yeah, thank you so much for all you do. Forever. Forever. Credit for all. Yeah, thank you so much, and please extend our felicitation and our greetings to the ES, and we really appreciate all they've done for PENGASSAN, and you know we are Oliver Twist, we will come back again, so that they will sponsor our entire neck to the same Lagos Business School. I'm very sure Professor Uche Atos was my teacher in my MBA days in Lagos Business School. I'm very sure that he's very happy that you keep sponsoring them so that they will have a lot of customers as far as LBS is concerned. So quickly, I wish to recognize all the representatives from the IOCs. We have representatives from Shell. We have representatives from ExxonMobil. And we have representatives from Total E&P. And I will acknowledge Total Energies E&P because they are my employers. If I don't acknowledge them, now maybe at the end of the month, a lot will not come. So we have the Executive General Manager of People and Talent Management. Comrade, Madam, I can call you Comrade, right? She's Comrade at heart. She has done a lot for the growth of industrial relations in that branch. Kenichi Esumeju, thank you so much, and you are welcome. So I use you all as point of contact to every other partners that are here. Thank you for your support. Thank you for partnering with us, and thank you for the sponsorship at all, because this event wouldn't have been this successful if not for the support both from the government agencies as well as the private establishment. We appreciate every one of you. Please, if I miss you out, it's not because, maybe because I can't sight your face from here, but I appreciate you all for being here. Then to the entire members of the Central Working Committee of PENGASSAN, thank you so much for the support. The generals are all sitting in the third row. I appreciate you for all that you do. Then to the National Executive Council members, you are quite appreciated as well, because without you, this event wouldn't have held today. So quickly, just to make few remarks, you know, one of the challenges that we've had in our industry today is actually about the crude oil theft. So we've asked some questions, just as the Deputy President of PENGASSAN stated a while ago. We have asked some questions, that why is it that we don't have deterrence? Because no society grows without deterrence. You see somebody is driving, and as you are driving, there is a traffic light. If you know that once you break that traffic light, they will send bills to your home, and bills, they are attached to your bank account. So before you say jack, they have deducted the money. So tomorrow, when you are driving close to that traffic light, you will tend to hold brake. Nobody will advise you. Even if it's at the middle of the night, you will hold brake. Because if you break the law, you will pay the penalties. So the part of the questions that we have asked as PENGASSAN is that these issues bordering on crude oil theft. We have had several vessels that have been burnt down. We have had tankers. They have burned these tankers down. The question is, have we ever had that people are sentenced to jail? Have you ever heard that there are people that stole our crude and they are facing 20, 30, 40 years in jail? The answer is a no. So we must do everything possible to create deterrence. We must do everything possible to sanction bad behavior. Because if you don't sanction bad behavior, you are telling the good guys that it is normal, that it is good to do what is wrong. So we are hereby calling on government to strengthen the sanction policies and to strengthen our laws to ensure that people that stole our crude, they will face their time behind the bars. You know, yesterday, one of the highlights that we also took away is also that currently today, that the cost of production in Nigeria, the cost of production is about 15 to 20% higher when compared to other parts of the world. You remember we have Bala Wunti yesterday from NUINS talking to us, the Chief Upstream Investment Officer in NNPC, and he made those remarks. And from our findings, it is true. Why is it true? Most of you comrades here, we work in offshore locations. You will go to a JV location, you are going to see like 3, 4, 5, 6 security vessels guiding one installation. That security vessels will be fueled. That security vessels will be manned by naval officers. That security vessels, you are going to be paying daily rate for it. When you compute it in that cost of production, it is quite high. So part of the challenges that we have also posed there, why will government abdicate responsibility and allow the investors to provide their own security in our waterways? What is the function of Navy? If government takes that responsibility away from the investors, if government takes that responsibilities away from the oil and gas producing companies, what is going to happen? That particular cost is going to disappear. And when that cost disappears, the cost of production will go down significantly. If you know operations in One, when you go to One and you see a particular vessel, a supply vessel going offshore, you are going to have 2, 3, 4 security vessels going with one supply vessel that is sailing offshore. That is the cost is quite huge. So we are calling on government that they should take away that cost from the IOCs by deploying a lot of security vessels to police our oil and gas investment. Because today, as it's been said, it was echoed yesterday, that crude is now found literally everywhere in the world. Unlike before, where we were the toast, where we were the, in Africa, you could count Nigeria, you could count Libya, you could count Angola, Congo, Gabon, and one of other countries. But today, crude is found literally everywhere in Africa. You go to Ghana, you go to Senegal, you go to Cote d'Ivoire, you go to, you have crude everywhere. In fact, in Mozambique, the gas deposit in Mozambique is amazing. And they found that field, say, about 6-7 years ago. So, government must be able to partner with the industry players to ensure that the cost of production comes down. Because investors, all they are looking at is how much they are going to make at the end of the day. What is their return on investment? What is their bottom line? So we call on government to help do this in the industry, and it will help much more. Then also, we also identified yesterday that our distribution chain, there is challenges. That the distribution chain is weak in the downstream section of the oil and gas industry. That is why today you see queues in most of the stations. The problem may be solved today, but tomorrow it will resurface. Because there is no country in the world that is as big as Nigeria, that have the same population that we have as Nigerians, in Nigeria, that brings its product to a particular area and use trucks to take it round. Because whenever there are challenges, whenever the roads are bad, whenever you have floods, those trucks cannot pass through a certain area. And what is going to happen? You are going to have scarcity. So we must do everything possible to strengthen that area. So as PENGASSAN, we have called for this in the past, and we also reiterate that today. Then the value chain must be developed. These were some of the things that came to the fore yesterday, and we are lending our voice to it, that is the direction to go, and that is the way to go. There was something I wanted to say about our court system, but I think the Deputy President of PENGASSAN made that point very, very clear. So I wish to welcome the speakers to today's event. And I will tell you that you have some of the best in the industry, and you have some of the best that could talk to you in subjects that matters today. We have one of our most distinguished, Niyi Adesoya. You know, I've listened to him severally, and there is never a dull moment. Professor Uche Atos, we welcome you as well to today's event. And of course, Lekan Ogunleye, we also welcome you. So I join us to relax and enjoy the second day of our PEARS 2024. Solidarity!
Give my mic. Thank you very much. I think it deserves another round of applause there. My cousin's wife received a knock on the door of her house in Atlanta, and when she opened, the officer said to her, they served her a ticket that she has not paid when she was supposed to pay. She said she did not beat the red light. They pulled out the camera footage and showed it to her, and she went to pay. Consequences. Thank you so much for reiterating those points that came out of the event yesterday. So let's proceed to our very first speaker in terms of our keynote. And we're moving over now to the authority. The authority chief executive is not here, Engineer Farouk Ahmed. Let's welcome the Executive Director, Health, Safety, Environment, and Community, speaking on his behalf, Dr. Mustafa Lamode. As he makes his way, let me acknowledge the presence of the IR Manager for Chevron, Babs Ajayi. Babs, you're welcome.
Solidarity, solidarity, forward, forward, backward, backward, great PENGASSAN. I'm a comrade in the making. The president of PENGASSAN, the CWC and NEC and all other members, past presidents, other comrades, TUC President, my brother here, Mr. Olalekon Ogule, the EVP Gas and Power NNPCL, the representative of ES Nigerian Content, and the representative of ES PTDF, who happens to be my uncle too, Usman Pindar. And I think the president has done a very good job in establishing a very well protocol. So I plead to please stand on the existing protocol. The authority chief executive would have loved to be here, but unfortunately, he's attending to some other national issue with the Office of the National Security Advisor. So he sends his apology. So I'm here to represent him. I have a written speech to read on his behalf. I'm delighted for yet another opportunity to participate and share my perspectives with you at this strategic industry event, which has become a forum for the effective assessment of the performance of our sector and provision of critical insight into the required actions for its sustainable growth. The NMDPRA will continue to maintain optimal collaboration with PENGASSAN and all other labor unions towards the development of an oil and gas industry that creates prosperity for all. The future of Nigeria's oil and gas industry must continuously be mainstreamed in all strategic national discussion to ensure that we are collectively working to unlock the extensive developmental potentials of our proven-rich oil and gas reserve base. The theme of this year's Labour Summit, the future of Nigeria's oil and gas industry, energy mix, energy security, artificial intelligence, divestment, and crude oil theft rightly reflects key result areas that must be achieved for this sector on an immediate long-term basis. Nigeria's energy security must be guaranteed through the accelerated development of an integrated energy mix that is efficiently supported by innovation and technology, sustainable investment, and optimal infrastructural security assurance across the entire value chain. I will use the next few minutes to review the Nigerian Gas Master Plan and share my perspectives on divestment of IOCs from Nigeria's oil and gas offering as specified in the invitation. The Nigerian Gas Master Plan, an overview of its performance and impact. The progressive drive and the national aspiration for optimization of Nigeria's extensive hydrocarbon resources of crude oil and natural gas led to the establishment and adoption of a national gas development blueprint known as the Nigerian Gas Master Plan in the early 2000s. The Gas Master Plan has an objective of seeking to accelerate the optimal integration of natural gas into the energy mix of Nigeria, which was predominantly driven by crude oil production and export and domestic refining for petroleum products for meeting our local energy needs. The implementation framework of the Gas Master Plan is structured to guide and facilitate the emplacement of key enablers and drivers required for the development of matured gas market that creates strategic competitive advantage for Nigeria in the regional and global energy space. So effective implementation of the Nigerian Gas Master Plan will create a Nigerian gas sector that ensure optimal supply of gas to the strategic and non-strategic domestic sectors, establishment of optimal gas supply infrastructure, operation of a robust and liberalized gas market, and optimization of revenue, economic gains through export of natural gas and its derivatives. The Gas Master Plan is made of 4 key sections, which I shall briefly review and highlight the major progress that have been achieved in the implementation of this key and critical blueprint. The first section defines the strategic interventions required to kickstart the development of a viable domestic gas market from a situation where there was practically no structured market for gas. Key interventions required at this stage include domestic gas supply obligation, a regulated transitioning pricing regime for supply of natural gas, incorporation of GSCN, kickoff of critical gas infrastructure development, and entrenchment of governing contract arrangement for gas supply operation, the GSAS and the GTS. At this stage, I am glad to inform you that this forum that all the interventions required at this stage of the Nigerian Gas Master Plan have been fully in place and a fairly developed growing domestic gas market has been established with active gas supply to power, gas-based industry, and energy-intensive consumers of gas. The domestic gas sector offtakes over 30% of the national gas production of about 7 to 8 billion scf per day. The second section of the Nigerian Gas Master Plan defines key enablers and drivers required to promote and attain full commerciality of the domestic gas market through price discovery mechanism that support voluntary supply of gas to the domestic market, upgrade of regulatory framework of the gas sector through the PIA and Gas Pipeline Network Code, and continuous growth of the gas infrastructure. I'm also elated to report at this point that the PIA and the Nigerian Gas Transport Network Code have been fully in place, and the operationalization of these enablers are in progress, while various projects for growing our national infrastructures are at various stages of completion. The third and fourth section of the Nigerian Gas Master Plan define critical enablers and the drivers of attainment of full liquidity and regulatory structure and full liberalization of our gas markets, respectively. Upon actualization of this major milestone of this Gas Master Plan, the Nigerian gas market will attain optimal liquidity that is guaranteed by an extensive number of market players, effective connectivity / accessibility of gas by all, and regulation of the gas sector in its entirety. All efforts are being implemented through fiscal incentivization by the federal government of Nigeria, such as the presidential fiscal incentives on growth for gas of 2023, enhanced regulatory enablement such as the Nigerian Gas the Network Codes in 2024, the new license regime and the market-based pricing and tariffing framework in 2024, strategic programs on gas such as the 2021 to 2030 Decade of Gas and the Presidential Initiative for CNG. A sustained implementation of the objective of the Nigerian Gas Master Plan must be enabled, supported through this decade and beyond to deliver the much-needed economic development of energy security, optimal socio-economic impact, as job creation, revenue generation, and most importantly, a cleaner environment. I encourage every stakeholder in the Nigerian gas sector to continue to ensure that it is contributing its best towards the development of this sector. The perspective on divestment of IOCs from Nigerian oil and gas upstream. The Nigerian oil and gas industry has evolved through various milestone development over the years, extending from that phase where key players, investors in the entire value chain were predominantly international oil companies that operated mainly through joint venture partnership with the federal government, to the current phase where a growing participation of indigenous players are contributing to the development of this sector in Nigeria. The divestment of IOCs from assets in the upstream sector of Nigerian oil and gas industry have been managed through approved regulatory instruments that ensure that the optimal performance of the upstream sector and the required energy security of Nigeria is not compromised through business and portfolio realignment of the divesting entities. Optimization of investment opportunities in the oil and gas sector must continue to be supported by all to ensure that Nigeria remains an attractive investment location. In conclusion, as I conclude, please permit me to observe that the National Gas Master Plan has proven to be one of Nigeria's most successful strategies that was developed and operationalized for the accelerated development of the gas sector. And I encourage this summit to review and make recommendations on how the entire objective of this blueprint can be fully actualized within this decade. The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority shall continue to implement appropriate regulatory measures to grow investment in this industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mustafa Lamode. He's Executive Director, Health, Safety, Environment, and Community at the authority as the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Speaking on behalf of Engineer Farouk Ahmed, the ACE Authority Chief Executive. He's left us at this summit with a charge. We should review and make recommendations around the gas master plan. There's a lot of conversations around that this morning, and we're going to continue. Please let's hear another round of applause for him. Thank you very much. We're moving on swiftly from the authority to the board, and the Executive Secretary of NCDMB, Engineer Felix Omashola Ogbe, FNSE, unable to be here today, as I said earlier, but we would welcome General Manager Research, Statistics and Development at the board on his behalf, Mr. Silas Omomehin Ajimijaye. You're welcome.
Thank you, Richmond. 10 minutes. Yes. Yeah. Solidarity. Solidarity. Women are great. Credit allowed to one. Great Ferguson. Great Nigeria. Enjoyment. Now. Thank you so much. That's very interesting. And distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to represent the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board. I wish also to stand on the existing protocol already established, but I must not fail to greet the representative of the authority, the Chief Executive of the Authority General Farouk Ahmed. My brother, thank you for coming. And all the sponsors, the distinguished sponsors of this event, the representatives of the sponsors of this event, also the Honorable Minister of Petroleum Resources, Oil, and Honorable Minister of Petroleum Resources, Gas, and representative of the presidency that may be in the House. I must also greet our amiable President, Engineer Comrade Festus Osifo, and your Central Working Committee and your NEC. I greet you all. I see in the House past presidents of PENGASSAN. Thank you for coming. All the ESCO of PENGASSAN, past and present, I acknowledge you and I celebrate you. The PENGASSAN is one organization that is dear to my heart. Your one of your first president, Comrade Venerable Olu Oshewa of blessed memory, president of PENGASSAN from 1979 to 1981, was my mentor and the reverend. So you have done very well. Great PENGASSAN! Yeah, I have a presentation here on behalf of my executive secretary, and I realized that I just have 10 minutes to present, and I think I already utilized about 2 minutes out of that 10 minutes. I'm also comforted that after my presentation, we are going to have a lot of presentation on this very same issue of the Nigeria Gas Master Plan and divestment of the IOCs from the Nigeria oil and gas upstream. Now, let's go to the introduction. As already said, the introduction on the fourth slide, the proven oil reserve in Nigeria is 37 billion barrels, OPEC 2021, and we are the 11th largest in the world and second largest in Africa. But if you look at the landscape for gas, the proven gas reserve, NMDPRA 2022 gives us 209.5 trillion cubic feet of gas. showcasing Nigeria as the 9th largest in the world and largest in Africa. Of course, as the president has said, all over Africa now, we have oil and gas discoveries. And NCDMB is the means of that development because we are promoting local content development in Africa. Now, concerning this gas master plan, which outlined a strategic vision to harness gas and transform the gas sector into a key driver of economic growth and development for Nigeria. I am going to focus on the development aspect of this because our name is Nigerian Content Development. It's good we note that we have vast reserve of gas as shown, and only 20%, about 20% of the total gas reserve have been developed, leaving ample room for further exploration and exploitation. And we have diverse deposits, both onshore and offshore. So that presents a unique advantage in our country. The strategies for gas infrastructure development, as already enunciated by the previous speaker in the next slide, is to ensure we have the pipelines, the processing plants, the storage facilities in place, and said all these are ongoing, and a lot of us in the room are employees or operators of these facilities. So it's something that is good, and we should continue to intensify effort. What are the opportunities? The opportunities in the next slide. Opportunity for upstream development, we're talking about divestment. We all know that the so-called IOCs of today started somewhere. And a lot of us have also worked or are working in these IOCs all over the world. We can get to that stage whereby we will take our future into our own hands and develop that aspect of the industry. Of course, the downstream utilization of the resources of oil exploitation and gas exploitation present a lot of opportunities in petrochemicals and fertilizer production, thanks to Dangote for what he has, but there's a lot of room for further development in that ecosystem. Of course, the midstream infrastructure has already mentioned the pipelines, the storage facilities, the gas processing facilities. There is a lot of opportunity for investment and operation in that regard. And LNG export. Those are the opportunities that the gas master plan has presented to Nigeria and for investors to key in all over the world. The decade of gas promoted by the Ministry of Petroleum Resources is one aspect of this master plan that the NCDMB has taken to heart to develop. As I said earlier, we are focused on the development of our gas ecosystem in Nigeria. You will see the investment and the partnership that the NCDMB has gone into to ensure that the mandate of Mr. President is actualized. All these companies highlighted have benefited from the partnership of NCDMB to ensure that we have a gas-powered economy. And this is pretty significant. We want to seek the indulgence of the House to give one busa for NCDMB. Thank you so much. Now, let me quickly, before rounding up, talk about this divestment by the IOCs from our oil and gas industry. Some of the reasons, as you can see here, and I know a lot of it will be talked about earlier: infrastructure, regulatory uncertainties, community tensions, and all that. These are reasons they have given for divestment. But there's something that we used to say in Africa, that monkey no fine, in mama like him. So what are the implications? What are the implications on the Nigerian hydrocarbon landscape? This is opportunity for local players. Just as a mother, we nurture the child in spite of discouragement from other people around and ensure the success of that child. PENGASSAN, in collaboration with all other industry players, we are the one operating the industry as PENGASSAN. And we have to collaborate with the government and all tiers of government to ensure success of our industry. This is a big opportunity. A lot of our people are already taking advantage of that. Now, the operational challenges and the regulatory challenges that was mentioned earlier in the president's speech, I believe that we are in a good place to ensure that these are taken care of for us to be the master of our fate. Yet again, go to the next slide. The positive impact of local content-induced asset transfer. You now see all these players, ITO, Seplat, Aeroton, Oando, First EMP, and so many others have taken advantage of this asset transfer to do exploits in our industry. And I charge you all to support them. For instance, 26% of crude oil and even 77% of gas, which conform to the challenges arising from the energy mix, is being produced by our national operators now, which shows that we are in a good place if we can just continue to work on this and develop our industry by ourselves. In conclusion, please go to the next slide, and indeed the last slide. The Gas Master Plan aims to transform Nigeria's natural gas resources into a major driver of economic growth and development. Investment opportunities arising from the divestment of IOCs offers a range of opportunities for Nigerian operators across the oil and gas value chain. Infrastructure development, including pipelines, processing plants, and storage facilities, as I mentioned earlier, is crucial for the success of this plan. And enabling policies on the part of regulators to attract the needed investment and ensure sustainable development of the gas sector is very, very crucial. Finally, just as what we are discussing in the room today, effective implementation of the Gas Master Plan will require strong collaboration between the government, IOCs, and local companies to overcome challenges and unlock the sector's full potential. Thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Silas Omomehin Ajimijaye is the General Manager, Research, Statistics and Development at the board, sharing with us some of the laudable projects that the board has partnered with in terms of gas development in the country, and leaving a charge for indigenous companies and entities to rise up to the challenge as IOCs divest from a sector or a part of our industry. Let's please hear another round of applause for the board. So we're still talking gas, and now we'll be looking at implementation on the Nigerian Gas Master Plan. And our next speaker, comes to us with over 2 decades of experience in the industry. Even though he is a lawyer, but he has honed his teeth in this industry, serving in many different capacities in especially the gas subsector. One time, He led the GACN, the gas aggregator for Nigeria. And one other time, he was deputy managing director for Nigerian LNG, arguably one of Africa's most successful businesses. And currently, he's overseeing gas, power, and new energies for NNPCL. So let's welcome Mr. Olalekan Ogunleye as he walks us through the implementation of the Nigerian Gas Master Plan. What are the successes? What are the challenges? He would know where the bodies are buried. Yes.
Great PENGASSAN, great Nigeria, solidarity, our educated woman, our great women, I'm a very famous he for she, so I'm very happy that in our PENGASSAN, women are given their place of pride. And for us, you know, I keep saying it, and it's not just because I'm a father of 3 girls, 3 lovely girls, but I keep saying gender sensitivity and supporting women, apart from being a human rights, is a productivity issue. We are proud of our great women. Please give a round of applause for our great women. It's absolutely a great honor for me to be here. I'm completely happy to be here. I want to thank the president of PENGASSAN, Comrade Festus Osifo, and his executive committee. He's told me about this event almost 2 months ago. It shows the forward thinking and the synchronization and coordination that you have, and the excellent leadership that you have in PENGASSAN. We're proud of you. We're proud of you. I also bring you the greetings of the GCO of NMPC, Malam Melekolo Kiari. Actually, I can also call him Comrade Melekolo Kiari. He's out of the country, as the president noted. He would have loved to be here. But I think we all are conversant with his passion for PENGASSAN, his belief in PENGASSAN, his support for PENGASSAN. Not just himself, but the entire leadership of NMPC. Great PENGASSAN! We're proud of you. And so, I have a simple message before I go into the topic. I have a simple message from the leadership of NMPC and from the energy sector. You see, often in this our great country, we are focused on the cup being half empty, and we are focused on our struggles. And it's not shocking, because we have struggles. We have many rivers to cross. But in that process, often we forget the things that are good. We forget the things that we're doing well. And one of the, as far as the energy sector is concerned, one of the positive, consistent lights is PENGASSAN. And I don't know if you guys even, fully take cognizance of this. I've been, Richmond said 2 decades. It's not 2 decades. I've been now in the energy sector for 3 decades. And in all that years, I've somehow been exposed to our unions, to PENGASSAN. And consistently, I have found and seen consistent demonstration of what I call positive partnership. PENGASSAN being a force for good, being a platform for progress, and we're just proud of you. So the simple message is that we are proud of our PENGASSAN. Everywhere I've worked, whether it's Nigeria LNG, NMPC, it's the same story. We have the old way, the old days, where people consider unionism as an obligation to be obstructive, to be the problem. But in our energy sector, we have a union that is a solution provider, that is a partner for progress. And we're just proud of it. And it's not 1 year, it's not just one leadership, it's consistent. And so it's really, really, for me personally, a privilege to be here. And I congratulate PENGASSAN. You are successful. You are doing well. Well done. Great PENGASSAN. Thank you. And I've sat for a couple of hours. And the first thing that struck me is that this is an ideas forum. It's not, you know, all of us have gone to conferences, workshops, seminars. You see people, you know, theory, and more theory, and we leave and nothing is done. I can see, you know, ideas, and I can see that these ideas are fully thought through. So just congratulations. Now, in terms of the topic for today, the implementation of Nigerian Gas Master Plan, the challenges and successes, I need to state that in order not to be boring, I will not repeat elements that have been touched upon. My friend, brother, and colleague, engineer Mustafa Lamode, has done a very exquisite expose on the Nigerian Gas Master Plan, so I will not go into details, and I'll also bear in mind the fact that we are energy sector participants. So we'll skip the table of contents. Let's go to the next slide, slide 3, and just start about and talk a bit about natural gas credentials. In Nigeria, for many decades now, especially in the last 10 years, there's been this focus on gas, this talk about gas. And, you know, there's a reason that we're focusing on gas. It's because, number one, we have it. You know, every society leverages on their strong points, on what they have. So we have it. The statistics are there, 209 or 209.5 TCF of gas, but we know that it's beyond that. That's for several years and even a couple of decades, there's not been significant focus on, you know, ramping up exploitation of gas. And so we have the vast resources. It's also affordable comparatively to other energy sources. It's more affordable. And in the last 10 years, there's been a ratcheting up of focus on clean energy. And, you know, people talk about hydrogen, fusion, all sort of things. But for us, and we keep saying it, that gas is our #1 product when we talk about clean energy. And so it's important that we're not just following international conventional wisdom just for the fun of it. In our country today, our reality is we must use gas as displacement product for firewood, for sawdust. Those of us that are from the village, we know what is going on. And we know the environmental consequences of our women cooking with firewood, inhaling fumes, and the associated damage to the health. So for us, gas fills that requirement. It's also flexible. You can liquefy it, you can pipe it, you can compress it, you can, you know, you can transport it in different manners. And it's versatile. It's gas to power, it's gas to industries, etc. So and so forth and so on. So if we then, next slide, if we look into the context, for Nigeria, just bringing it to our specific situation. Gas is an economic product that is absolutely central to our quest for addressing energy poverty. Depending on what statistics you have, in Africa, at least the number is that about 600 million people do not have access to electricity. The gentleman in his earlier comment said, according to the Christian worldview, that when the world was being created, the first word was, let there be light. And it's the same in society. There is statistics to show that access to electricity directly correlates to the living standard of the people. And so it's important to us in Nigeria for this purpose. There is also in Nigeria a positive development, because for the last several years, the governments have been consistent in their focus for gas, in their support for gas. And beyond that, we've also found that all across the energy sector, there's broad-based consensus that gas is that product that has the capacity to help with economic growth and to improve the quality of life for our people. We've talked about the environmental credentials. We've also, in our little corners, often talked about how we are not connected in Africa in terms of trade. So I'm going to Abidjan next week. Traveling in Africa itself, it's sometimes a nightmare. We had a very embarrassing situation last week where we had senior officials in Nigeria going to Malabo. Malabo is just next door if you're in Akwa Ibom or Cross Rivers. And to go to Malabo, they had to fly to first to Abidjan, and then they were brought back to Lagos, and then to fly to Malabo. And they spent 6 hours on a flight that should not take more than 1 hour. And we had others who went to Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, and then just to get to Malabo from Abuja. And so for us, gas is an opportunity to connect the economies of Africa. And that is why NMPC, more than 15 years ago, launched the West African Gas Pipeline Project with other partners. And as we speak, we have 675 kilometers of gas pipeline connecting Nigeria with Benin Republic, with Togo, and with Ghana. And it's consistent, it's regional integration. And as we speak, we are also, as NMPC, promoting another project called the Nigerian-Morocco Gas Pipeline Project, which will connect 13 African economies and also has a spur line to another 3. So totally 16 economies. So again, gas is relevant to us because it's a veritable tool to connect African economies. We know that prosperity that we crave in Africa will never come until we maximize trade with each other, with African countries. And NMPC and Nigeria is leading this in this regard. We've talked about key electricity availability. We've talked about foreign direct investment and employment. We know that the gaps that we have. I tell people, because this is a practical forum, we have to give examples. So about 5 years ago, I was in GSAN, and we had 2 projects, 2 groups that wanted to do a methanol project. And I remember, supporting that project. To my surprise, 2 months ago, one of the project promoters contacted me and said, can you send us CVs? And I'm like, okay, thank you. That's nice. You remembered me. And he said, we are taking 2,000 engineers from Nigeria to China to train them for 1 year and bring them back because we're expanding and we need, to train the engineers. And I was like, wow, 2,000, that's interesting. And a week ago, they came back and said, can you send us 30 CVs? We are employing. So again, gas has that potential to unlock the much needed employment that our people need. We've talked about our struggle for the Naira-dollar dance. Everybody is saying it. But again, if you look at Nigeria LNG, in terms of foreign currency earnings, dollar earnings, it's been phenomenal. And that is why, as NMPC, we're not just promoting Train 7, we are also promoting other land-based LNG. And as we speak, we are earmarking to take FID on 2 floating LNGs by the end of this year. And there's one that will add 3.5 million metric tons per annum, and the second one, 2.75 million tons per annum. So all this is to ramp up our ability to earn foreign exchange. The next slide just gives a bit of historical perspective to our gas journey. So I dimensioned it in 4 time periods. Everybody remembers that oil was found at Oloibiri, but we also know as industry participants that in almost all the instances where you find oil, there is associated gas. And so gas has been with us for long. And 1956 to 1969, there was little appreciation for gas. It was seen as a nuisance. And, people just struggled, they flared it, and they just struggled with what to do with it. From 1970 to around 1999, the story changed. We had improved appreciation for gas, improved gas commercialization. NMPC built its first gas plant at Sapele. Other plants followed, and Nigeria LNG was incorporated in 1989 and had its first gas in 1999. From the year 2000 onwards, we had, significant attention to gas. We developed important projects, launched important projects like the ELPS, like also NLNG started major expansions. And from 2020, we entered what some people call the decade of gas, and sometimes the era of gas. And so it's absolutely fitting that in our discourse this morning, the focus has been on gas because we are absolutely in the era of gas. The next slide speaks to just the general statistics in terms of population, in terms of our reserve, 209 TCF of gas, in terms of, the domestic supply and the different strata of our gas supply, but I won't dwell on that for long. The key fact, however, is that Nigeria has the highest gas potential in Africa, and that our 209 TCF is just, as far as we're concerned, a tip of the iceberg. We think that the potential for gas is far, far beyond that and is in excess of 600 TCF. So to go to the Nigerian Gas Master Plan, my colleague has given the broad overview of this plan. The major focus of the Nigerian Gas Master Plan was energy security, simulating the economy, GDP growth, making Nigeria competitive in the export markets. And to achieve this, there were regulations, the commercial framework was developed, and attention to gas infrastructure launched. The Nigerian Gas Master Plan also included, more importantly, a pathway to what we call willing buyer, willing seller. It's developed the regulatory framework and the mechanics for intervention, etc. We'll go to the successes. We've talked about the increased awareness and showed how that sort of evolved. The domestic supply obligation has been successful, in my view. Most of the projects that you see today, Dangote Fertilizer, Bua, the Indorama project, etc., will never have come to pass without domestic supply obligation. So it's an important example of policy or governmental intervention that has been positive. Also, it's created a bankable commercial framework, so we have the GSAs, the GSPs, we have the agreements. They're not perfect because often we have issues with collateralization and payment assurance. We have the issues with the power sector payment performance, but overall, we have bankable commercial structures for our transactions. The Gas Aggregation Company of Nigeria has been a huge success. As we all know, the main focus of the Gas Aggregation Company of Nigeria is to ensure that every serious player, every serious investor in Nigeria that needs gas for their industry gets the gas they require. It's been a success story. And that success has been consolidated in the PIA. The sector-based pricing also has been adopted out of realization that the different segments have different capacity to bear gas price, and that we must give impetus to sectors such as gas-based industry, to people who are investing in mini LNG, in CNG, realizing fully well that these subsectors need additional support and to attract investment into this segment. A major area is, the gas infrastructure, because you can't, if you produce the gas, you have to get it from the gas-rich area to the market. And NMPC, again, has led the way consistently over the several decades with projects such as ELPS-1, ELPS-2. Everybody knows that the ELPS-1 is 1.1 BCF of gas. It's been doubled now to 2.2 BCF of gas. As we speak, we have another project to deal with gas pressure on the ELPS called the Midland Compressor Project to ensure that not just in the Western market, but also gas supply to West Africa is optimal. So a lot of progress in that regard. Network code has been introduced. The NMDPRA moving forward with that, with support of other gas sector participants. And we're consistently revisiting it to make sure that we continue to make tweaks such that the full benefits of the network code will be realized. Again, from the Nigerian Gas Master Plan, the attention to domestic markets has ramped up, and we've talked about, the progress in the LNG subsector. Challenges. Part of the challenge was that prior to the enactment of the PIA, we had what we call a lull in investment and appetite to jump in and attract investment because of lack of certainty. But that's thanks to, again, NMPC leadership, government focus, and support of all industry participants. The PIA is in place, and the PIA has been very successful. We have still gaps, especially in the power sector, around payment performance. The solution is that all of us must come together and do a mix of things. We are introducing more focus on captive customers to make sure that we continue to emphasize paying customers for the gas sector, and also innovative approaches such as electricity trading. We don't want to just be trading gas. We want to also be trading electricity. And it's important that we diversify the revenue flow to the power sector. And instead of exporting gas to our neighbors, we also want to ramp up on exportation of electricity. So there's still gaps in the infrastructure aspect, and we are launching a new raft of projects to fill these gaps and make sure that the gas gets to market. We've talked about the limitations in network code implementation, and sometimes there's still markets that are stranded that needs to be attended to. And we also need to continue to grow the domestic market to make sure that we are not prioritizing just export to the detriment of the domestic market, because they say charity has to begin at home. So I'd like to move on to the decade of gas. And it's important to point out that one of the challenges we've always had in our country is, I think there's a phrase for it, policy somersault, that often we start an initiative and we abandoned it. And so when the transition became imminent, there was a lot of discussions among energy sector participants that the decade of gas, which is that current framework to ensure coordinated attention to all aspects of the gas sector, from production to infrastructure to market commercialization to market liberalization, survives beyond the then government. To the credit of the current government, we are happy to note that the decade of gas is not only thriving, it's being reinforced, and the successes, some of the successes I highlighted, over 20 priority gas supply projects have been identified across all terrain. There is a steady, stable platform and sector collaboration to make sure that all these projects are enabled and that they take FID and that they are delivered. A couple of months back, we had two FIDs on, Iseni and Ubeta, which cumulatively are contributing over 400 million scf of gas. Additional 3 projects are scheduled for FID before the end of the year. And these projects include H2 and H1. Some of these are Shell, SPDC, JV-related assets that will also develop about 800 million scf of gas. And the list goes on. I think it's also important to note that government is actively playing its part. We all can remember the presidential, the executive orders that were launched a couple of months back to incentivize NAG development, remove certain bottlenecks in the contracting process and also in the investment environment. It's very good to note that all gas sector participants consider this governmental intervention to be very effective, very successful, and we are seeing that in the spate of projects being earmarked for FID, and this has been successful. And the good news, again, for this audience is that there is also consensus in Nigeria today among gas sector participants that the ultimate success is in the deep water, and that we must extend the current collaboration that has helped through the presidential order, through other efforts in enabling NAG development to the deep water. And as we speak, efforts are being ramped up to ensure that there will be a follow-on presidential executive order on the deep water. And for us, once we get the deep water right, we are absolutely there. And so projects like Nigeria and Morocco will make sense, and issues about gas supply gaps to some of the existing projects will vanish. And so currently, the SA Energy, the GCO, NMPC, and major cross-government entities are focused on landing these deep water fiscals before the end of the year. And this is, again, a sign of the current collaboration that we see. The Decade of Gas also has been serving as a platform to retain and sustain attention to the challenges of the power sector. We know that there is a lot of rivers to cross in the power sector. We know that in Nigeria, once we fix the power sector, that's ultimately the final frontier, and it's moving in the right direction. Some payments have been made. Mechanisms to eliminate the remaining debt is in place, or it's been unfolded, and also there is currently attention to ensure that going forward, we do not get to a situation where the debts will again pile up. So we think that Nigeria is on the path, towards cost-reflective prices across the value chain to guarantee investors and to secure investors' confidence. But there are challenges as well, as always, and our task is always to overcome the challenges. Project financing continues to be an issue, but the good story is for us, and we are convinced, and this is our approach, is to continue to present these our gas projects as clean energy projects, because they are actually, as far as we are concerned, they are clean energy projects. When we use CNG to reduce the use of diesel, we know the environmental benefits of that. The full implementation of the network code is on, and we are collaborating with, as appropriate, to make sure that the final tweaks are in place and that we continue to crystallize the benefits of the network code. Affordability of products, it's still, for domestic market, is an issue, especially for the GPI, and this is an area that is receiving attention. The final point, which is in this segment, is something that we all need to think about: ease of doing business. It's important that we understand that there's still a lot of work to be done in this regard. Nigeria is the market in Africa. It's our destiny and DNA to lead Africa and to compete globally. And we are on that tangent. But it's important for we understand that ease of doing business is major, and that each and every one of us has a role to play. If you need to make an investment and you need 21 approvals and 21 permits, and you have to go to 21 offices, it's important that in our personal capacity, we think through our role, our contribution, our teams, how we can facilitate the ease of doing business. Because attracting investments in Nigeria will continue to be theory unless we land and deliver on the ease of doing business. So in conclusion, I would like to make the following submissions and feedback, gives the following feedback. Number one is that gas has always been a force for human progress and is validated as that ultimate tool to deliver prosperity to Nigeria and to our society. And that we need to leverage on this, to borrow PENGASSAN's word, this solidarity in the gas sector to make sure that we leverage on it to bring benefit to the society. The second and very important message, and this is a message that Nigerian people, the good, the versatile, the exceptional people of this great country sent to us a few weeks ago, is that we must focus on delivery. Nigerians are not fascinated by statistics, by slogans. It's delivery. And so our job is effective performance. It's not how much you tried, it's outcome. And in NMPC, we are walking that walk. Because now the mantra is just get it done. You know, stop the PowerPoint and get it done. And this is what the leadership of NMPC continues to emphasize. And it's what the Nigerian people are demanding, that gas must translate to economic well-being for them. It must lead to improved living conditions for them. NMPC also is effectively driving gas commercialization in coordination with all gas sector participants. So in NMPC of today, the mantra is partnership, is win-win collaboration. We say all the time that NMPC is open for business. We invite everyone to get on board, to collaborate with us. And the opportunities are just endless and, you know, virtually unlimited, as the NCDMB ES has shown us. But more specifically, we are working very hard to ramp up production. Everybody knows now that there is a war on production going on in NMPC, and we are doing this not in silos, but in cooperation with our partners. Within the next 12 months, we are going to about 750 million scof additional gas will come into the domestic market. In the next 24 months, we are projecting that we will grow gas supply to the domestic market by at least 25%. And we are tracking, these are not just numbers. We have candidates. We're tracking them. We are unblocking constraints and making sure that, you know, effectively we can track delivery of this gas volume. We're looking at power generation. We have many projects launched. A few kilometers from here, we have the Gwagwalada IPP. The first phase is 350 million. It's under construction as we speak. It's going to be commissioned by the president in 2026. And as we speak, we are already talking about the optimization of this project. We have the Kaduna IPP, which is phase 1 of our Kaduna power project. And then we're super excited about Kano market and we're also developing the Kano IPP. Cumulatively, we're talking about $2.5 billion of additional investment. Everybody is familiar with the CNG story and the current focus on CNG. As NMPC, we're supporting at different levels. We have Nigerian Gas Marketing, NMPC Gas Marketing Limited, which is NGML. We've commissioned a CNG mother station, 5 million scof plus in Lasamaja. We are taking FID on another 4 this year. We're doing groundbreaking on another 4 in different regions. In total, we are going to do at least 7 CNG mother stations, each of minimum 5.2 million scof per day. The logic behind that is to make sure that wherever you are in this country, you have access to CNG. And we're not just doing it, we are also doing it in synchronization to make sure that the gas is actually available. So we have specific gas molecules attributed to this CNG project. Again, to make sure that gas gets to every corner of this country, in October, November, we are going to have groundbreaking of at least 3 mini LNG projects. There's 1 mini LNG project in Ajaokuta, just in Ajaokuta alone. Already, for some of these projects, site clearance activities are actually proceeding as we speak, and one of these projects will actually be producing before the end of next year. The idea is to make sure that every part of this country is accessed by gas. Again, moving on and concluding, we are also investing significantly in gas transportation. The AKK is about 70% concluded. It's going to open a new raft of opportunities in this country. As we speak, all efforts are geared towards completing the AKK, worst case Q2 next year. It's going to open a new paradigm in Kano, in Kaduna, in Abuja, and bring pipeline gas to new markets. Again, OB3, we have some challenges with OB3. As we speak, we are at 1,120 meters. We need, at the River Niger crossing, we need to cross the river. We are following this with a rigorous cadence. We have daily operational meetings to make sure that finally we cross the river and the OB3 is completed this year and that the country gets the benefit of this great project. The list is endless. We have gas distribution pipeline projects as we speak. There is a project from Bonicam to Lekki. There are other prime markets that new pipelines are being constructed. So they are under construction. They're not, just futuristic. Last slide, please. So we are going to complete the gas transmission infrastructure and make sure that the ELPS system delivers value, not just for the country, but for West African market. Finally, on gas transportation, we're also focusing on the Eastern market. As we speak, we have about 3 projects that are geared towards the Eastern market. We have a pipeline project from Agbo to Asaba, to Onitsha, to Nnewi and Oka, which will unlock that premium market. We also have what we call the Trans-Nigerian Gas Pipeline, which will go from QIT to Uyo, to Eket, to Enugu, to Umahia, and we'll touch the OB3 as well, and then terminate at Ajaokuta. So the AKK will have 2 major feeder pipelines. So we're doing all this in synchronization. My concluding submission is that the realization of gas to prosperity, which is the mantra of the President of the Federal Republic, requires active participation from all stakeholders. Like they say in life, you crawl, you walk, and you run. We've crawled, we've walked, it's time to run. PENGASSAN, we need you on board. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much as well, Mr. Olalekan Ogunleye, Executive Vice President, Gas Power of the NNPC Limited. Thank you. I told you when I introduced him that he certainly will know where the bodies are buried, and he has shown us where. So thank you. One round of applause for him. Thank you very much. Let me acknowledge quickly the presence of the Executive Director of Production for ExxonMobil, Mr. Bagzi Jabil. Good to see you. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. A colleague of his has been with us since yesterday as well, and that's the Labor Relations Manager, Africa, Middle East, and Caspian of Exxon, Kenneth Okoro. Thank you for joining us as well. We're also being joined today by the General Manager, Human Resources for NCDMB, Gloria Onajero Osiebe. Gloria, it's good to have you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you very much. Moving on swiftly now to our next speaker. We have slightly adjusted our agenda because one of our speakers has an international flight to catch. But for now, because another speaker has to be at another meeting in a very short while from now, we're moving on. You will find out the adjustment as I move on. But we're going on now to our next presentation on strategies for successful divestment and impact on employees' international best practices. And our speaker is one that has garnered experience from very many corners around the world. Before I get to him, however, because just immediate past speaker is leaving shortly, we'll need to give him a plaque of appreciation for himself and for their company. Where's, can I have that? All right, cool. So EVP, sir, can you please come back on stage? We want to give you a plaque of appreciation from PENGASSAN. Let's go ahead, thank you very much. Yes, we will also be presenting to the board and the authority. Where are my ushers? We'll also be presenting to the board and the authority. Thank you very much. Let's give him another round of applause. Can I call on the authority now, please? The authority. Can I get... Yeah, I just wanted my ushers, one of them to be giving me the plaque. Can I get the one for the authority, please? Where's the plaque for the authority? Authority now, NMDPRA, that's the authority. So we're giving one, first of all, we've given one as for our speaker, and then we're giving this to our second speaker, the authority. Our next speaker, the board, NCDMB. Thank you so much. Mr. Ajimijaye, please come up. Mr. Ajimijaye, can you allow Mr. Ajimijaye pass, please? Please proceed, sir, for being one of our keynote speakers. Thank you very much. All right. Yeah, that's okay. Can we now give NMDPRA, please? NMDPRA. DJ, please cue them.
Yeah, solidarity. So the first one that we gave were for, for the guest speakers and the keynote address. Those are presented the keynote address. But this one is going to be presented to NMDPRA for their sponsorship. This is the third year that we're having this event, and I will safely say that they are one of our lead sponsors. The ACE. When we were conceptualizing this program, I actually sat down with the ACE, Engineer Farouk Ahmed, FNSC, and we had some conversations around this, and he was one of those that gave the encouragement that is something that is quite good and that we should continue with the program. So we thank you so much. We thank you for all that you do, and we present this award to you on behalf of PENGASSAN. Thank you so much, and we appreciate it.
All right, next is our special recognition sponsors for NNPCL, NNPC Limited. Thank you, authority. And now it's NMPC Limited. And to complete the list, okay.
The same way as well, the GCEO has been someone that has supported us from the beginning. In fact, in the last two editions, the very first edition, he was a keynote speaker. He was here physically. Then the second edition as well, he was here. In fact, he has been communicating with me in the last 2-3 days and trying to express he's not being too happy, for not making the event, but he promised to be here by the grace of God Almighty when we hold this program again next year. Thank you so much. We appreciate all the sponsorship. We appreciate all the support. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Real quick, one last one and we're done. Let me welcome Honorable Chief Peter Okagbara. Sir, please come for representing the governor of Delta State who spoke yesterday with us. After that, a family photo and we're done with this badge. Thank you very much for representing your chief executive of the states and being with us since yesterday. Thank you.
Big things, Nemo like.
You have it? Thank you. Please, let's take a family photo now. Commissioner, just stay with him in the family photo. Let's take a family photo.
All eyes on me because I came in a Lambo. So why you do me like this? You know I would do anything.
All right.
Nothing not do me anymore. Big things, Nemo like. No money. No money when they give me morale. Energy. Big things, Nemo like. Big things, Nemo like. Yeah. Shade the show for my life. Yeah. Big things, Nemo like. Yeah. Shade the show for my life. Yeah. When I walk through the valley and the shadow. Yeah. Big things, Nemo like.
All right, let's give them please one more round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you. Do you have the shot? DJ, bring and down, kill him. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please go back to your seats. Let's give them another applause as they take their seat. Moving on swiftly to the next presentation I mentioned earlier. Please, let's just settle down. Kindly, let me just give this advice. Very kindly, please. If you need to receive a call or have a chit chat in the room, can just kindly step outside so that we don't increase the noise level while a speaker is speaking to us. Thank you very much. Okay, onwards now. Strategies for successful divestment and impact on employees, international best practices. I was saying that this speaker is one of the individuals who comes to us with experience from both industry, working as a lawyer and HR expert, consulting for many countries, and bringing all of that experience home to now a faculty member at the Lagos Business School. Because of time, you can consult the program and you will see a bit more about him. He's known as the veteran of 4 mergers. Let's welcome Professor Uche Atta. He's our next speaker.
Solidarity, great PENGASSAN, great PENGASSAN. Our women are great. Let me begin by thanking all of us present here for this opportunity once again. I must say that in the last 10 years or more, I have been associated with PENGASSAN to the extent that during the last convocation exercise we had at the Lagos Business School, in introducing me to the guests who were present during a special lunch, the Vice Chancellor of the school said, here you meet Uche Atta, although a faculty member, but a member of PENGASSAN. And I must say that it was not just because of my close association with PENGASSAN, but that within that year, PENGASSAN ran a number of programs in the school to the extent that women in PENGASSAN came quite a couple of times. And then each time they came, they made their presence known by always singing solidarity songs so that everybody knew that PENGASSAN was around. So I must thank you for this opportunity. Today I've been given the task of speaking on a topic that is very dear to me, not just as a practitioner, not just as somebody who had been in the field, but also an area of research interest to me as an academic. As you will see in my background, not only that I worked in the public service, I also worked in an organization called NECA, Director of Legal Services and Industrial Relations. But more than anything, I worked in an organization called GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, for about 15 years as HR Director and Company Secretary. I actually joined that organization when the name was Beecham. We had a merger, again due to divestment, with another organization called SmithKline and French to form SmithKline Beecham. Again, Sterling Health divested and went into voluntary liquidation when they merged with SmithKline Beecham. Yeah, but there was another big one between the then SmithKline Beecham and Glaxo Wellcome to form what today we call GlaxoSmithKline. And therefore, I have had to go through some strategic alignment in industry. And each time I have opportunity to talk about this, I always welcome it because I am going to rely more on the experiences I had in this direction. So permit me to again go straight to this discussion, not without acknowledging the presence of many of my old friends that I can find here, including the President, C.O. Sifo, whom we see more on television than physically. This was a great opportunity to meet with him personally. So what are the areas I want to cover? Very quickly, the slides. We are going to do more when we come to the area of trade union responses. The reason being that here we shall look at what we call global best practices, because we always say that today we are witnessing, as part of globalization, opportunities to learn from each other, that the intermediation of technology has given us opportunity to not just go to everywhere, but that you can learn even while sitting in one place. And therefore, we shall be able to look at how are others responding to this phenomenon, and then see whatever we can learn from that as we move on. Just to put our discussion in context and avoid any ambiguities at this stage, a definition is offered here. It's the sale of an interest, whether 100% or less than that. That is what divestment means. Sometimes, you know, it's just like when we were having interaction with the IMF. Rather than talk about conditions, the IMF talked about what? Conditionalities. So whether we call it divestment or divestiture, we are referring to the same issue. What is the process of making the slides to move? I'm yet to understand the process. It's moving now. Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry? Okay. Next slide. Okay. This is forward. Which one is forward? Okay. Okay. All right. We could also say that it is the getting rid of assets, disposal of assets. Can I see the other one? The other one appears to be doing much better. Is it going back? Which one is moving forward? Forward. Yeah, forward, but it's going back now. It's going back with this one. Okay, go this one. Go here. Just go for next slide. All right, next slide. Can we see the other one?
Who is changing, him or you? Who is changing him?
You're changing.
Okay, try changing less.
Okay, change.
No, you change. Is he answering you now? Is he the one changing? You're changing there. Allow him try. Allow him try. Try.
Okay. Yeah, we're running for time. See?
Is it working?
It's not moving.
Okay, don't worry. Just change for him. Just tell them next slide. Tell them next slide.
Okay, next slide. Okay, no, go back. Okay, so the other way we can also look at divestment is just getting rid of your assets. Some will use the word disposal. Next slide. What could be the reasons globally? Quite a number. However, the most common in the area of reasons given for divestment will include financial hardship, generating funds. More than anything, sometimes it could be induced by regulatory authorities, as we shall see. Next. Here in Nigeria, we have seen that regulatory, apart from other reasons, had also induced divestments. 2000 or thereabout, there was the launch of what was called the Marginal Field Program by the government, when the IOCs were requested to surrender the underdeveloped fields at that time. And that was in a bid to encourage the domestic oil producers. But again, we have seen that there are other reasons in Nigeria for divestment. One, again, previous speakers have talked about this, rising incidents of sabotage, insecurity, pipeline vandalization, unending community crisis are part of the reasons often cited by IOCs why we are divesting one time or the other. Next. Again, we have also seen, as part of the reasons by IOCs, emergence of more oil-producing countries. One of our colleagues talked about that. The president himself talked about the cost of production in some other countries. There are more options for the IOC. Mozambique, Guyana, more attractive. Cost of production in Nigeria, among the world's highest. Again, this is debatable. But the president, in his speech, paid attention to, again, the product or the need for the IOCs to do certain things by way of infrastructure, which the state ordinarily would have been responsible for. Next.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Final reasons for divestment. PIA took nearly 20 years to be actualized, and the uncertainties associated with the period leading to the PIA created what in law we call the lacuna, and quite a number of decisions, some hasty, were taken by the IOC. And therefore, some of them could not wait to get the type of certainties that would have allowed them to either consolidate on their investment or to even decide what do we do, since they were very uncertain about the environment. Next. This idea of climate change, it has taken a center stage today all over the world. That global decline for fossil oil, fossil fuel, clamor for climate-friendly energy. And today, we see the desire by the IOCs to now begin to invest in areas which are considered more environmentally friendly energies. I was glad I listened to our last speaker when he talked about gas being actually a clean energy, contrary to the general impression that unless you were investing in some other areas that are outside the fossil, you are not investing in clean energy. Next. Let's take a step back on what has happened in Nigeria so far. You recall that in the 50s, the oil and gas industry was dominated by the IOCs. And the DOCs came on board approximately about 30 years ago. Next slide. Let's look at the various waves of divestments that have so far happened in Nigeria. Between 2000 and 2001, we saw the first wave of divestments, the sale of the marginal fields. 24 small fields were involved at that time. Those were areas that were unattractive to the IOCs. Those fields contained more gas. Only 5 of those fields from evidence reached the potential for oil that was required. And the first wave was mainly to give the DOCs opportunity to participate fully in the oil industry. That was the key driver of the first wave. Next. Second wave of divestments in Nigeria, 2015 or thereabouts. This was voluntary by the IOCs. The main driver was to rationalize by the IOCs, rationalizing their portfolio, and to spur further growth by the IOCs. All those things happened beginning from 2015 or thereabout. Next. Now we enter the third wave of divestments in the industry. In terms of value, the calculation from the evidence here, 20.8 trillion was involved by way of divestment. Shell, the value in terms of the divestment, you could also see the any comment divestment with 5 billion worth of assets left. ExxonMobil divestment worth 15 billion. Total and ConocoPhillips commenced. All these were obtained from the source that I just quoted. This was all happened during the third wave. Next slide. Have there been any benefits from these divestments so far? Number one, there appear to be increase in gas production now. DOCs have paid more attention to gas. DOCs now supply gas to NLNG from information available to us. This appears to be part of the benefits that have come from this divestment. Next slide. There appear to be better stakeholder engagement following the divestment. For instance, the domestic oil companies appear to have better understanding of communities. It appears that conflicts may be better handled now following divestment and following the entry of more DOCs in that industry. In terms of flexibility in their operations, it appears that the DOCs may be stronger. Remember, all these things are on paper. Further benefits, promotion of local content, the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act of 2010, greater development of local skills and manpower, capacity building, creating more SMCs, and then enabling the TOCs, domestic oil companies, to take what we call the commanding height of the economy. All these appear to be benefits from divestments. In terms of other benefits, promotion of integrated petroleum operations. Today, we find that the divestment has given greater opportunity for DOCs to be involved in not just upstream, midstream, and downstream. And based on this, we are likely to see extra value from every barrel of oil that we produce in Nigeria, given, again, the presence of the DOCs through the value chain. Now, let's look at the consequences of divestments. Today, oil is about 90% of our export revenue. And therefore, whatever happens in that sector will have a grave economic impact for the country. It's about 6% of our GDP. And therefore, divestment in whatever form will impact the economy. No doubt. An industry that occupies that portion of GDP and revenue, any divestment will always have a short-term shock on the economy. The first is in the area of the environmental concerns. Number one, we have approximately 300 fields in operation. Some fields have become abandoned. There appear to be no abandonment program by the IOCs for now. No funds to restore the fields by the IOC. IOCs appear to divest from mature fields. Today, although we have the PIA, the provisions to address this area, but these consequences have not been fully addressed, notwithstanding the PIA. The reason being that we do not appear to see any investments to be able to deal with this particular consequence. Next slide. Climate change. As we all know, Nigeria is a signatory to the Paris Agreement. And we also have the Climate Change Act of 2021. In the face of the IOC's divesting, we do not think that the DOCs so far have the experience to deal with this area. We do not think that DOCs have the technology or have the muscle to be able to deal with that area. Then, coming back to the main issue that is before us, and that is the consequence on employees, the impact of divestment. So far, 15 MNCs have divested from Nigeria. And from all the evidence available, both from NECA, Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, a minimum of 20,000 direct employees have so far lost their jobs following the divestments. That is the current situation. Next slide. In terms of other impacts, how it has impacted employees, we have seen that, like what has happened in the other industries, where we have had mergers, acquisitions, and other forms of strategic alignment, there is always a great impact in the area of trust, commitment, and loyalty. Series of strategic alignments, including divestments, will always translate into direct jeopardy in terms of employee trust, commitment, and loyalty. And it brings to the fore the well-known saying that whereas an employee may always think, believe, I will give my commitment and loyalty to an organization. But we're beginning to see that following some strategic decisions of organization, either to merge, to divest, that there will be no guarantee that an organization will remain loyal to an individual. And when you have that type of situation, chances are that even those who are currently surviving in the organization will always approach that organization from the point of view of transaction, this organization may take a decision that may never be in our interest, and therefore, I cannot commit my loyalty to that organization on a long-term basis. One of the things that could lead to that type of decision would be the perceived justice of the divestiture. You see, it is important that people who lead organizations, they are able to deal with this number one very well. All the measures have been involved in, all the strategic, they have been such that when people perceive the justice of it, there is a reason why this has to happen. But if they see that the reason is purely economic, they are likely to believe that this an organization should never be trusted. But if they find that the reasons can be defended and on other reasons, there will be other reasons to defend that decision, you'll find that the tendency towards considering the divestiture as unjust in the circumstance, it may be lessened, and that will affect, again, the morale, the loyalty of those who survive the consequential actions that will follow that type of decision. Next slide. What has been responses from organized labor in the face of the consequence of divestment on employee behavior? All over the world, we have seen that organized labor have responded in various forms, and I've tried to summarize them here. Number one, they said the best time to prepare for war is during what? Peacetime. There is need to now begin to look at what is called protective measures. By protective measures, we must begin to put on the agenda. We did this in the pharmaceutical industry. When following deregulation all over the world, you recall that part of the conditionalities of IMF all over the world would be that you must liberalize and deregulate your economy. Now, because pharmaceutical industry, when this happened, discovered that for them to survive, they needed what was called a critical mass. And to achieve critical mass, mergers and acquisitions became very attractive options. As soon as we discovered that that was going to be the pattern in the pharmaceutical industry, I, being the chairman of the NGIC in our industry at that time, we now knew that it was a matter of time it will affect every pharmaceutical company. And therefore, part of the things that we included in the agenda was, in the event of that happening, what will be the protective measures beyond the normal end of service benefits? And therefore, it became a special item. Today, we're beginning to see all over the world that in order to protect employees in this sector, because that appears to be the direction. Many years ago, when offshoring, outsourcing became the trend in your industry, I was very happy that I participated at that time in some strategic meetings by PENGASSAN on how to respond, and it really helped. And therefore, this is what we are beginning to see, that in addition to every other items being discussed, there's need to include this item, protective measures, because it has become a reality and a pattern of growth in your industry. Today, we're beginning to see, as part of global best practices, what we call joint trade union councils. You have a very
You've been watching a live coverage of the Day 2 of the PENGASSAN Energy and Labour Summit, which has been holding at the Congress Hall, Transcorp Hilton, Abuja. And you're watching Channels Television, reaching you live from Lagos. We now continue with our usual programming for the day. Please stay with us.